Okay, let's do a few stamp sketches with the new Shores set. I say set, but these stamps are also available individually. There are 2, 4, 6 images in this set, fairly large ones, especially in comparison to kind of the little figurine and birds and canine set. This one's a little bit larger. I'm not going to finish these scenes off in this video here. I wanted to do some test compositions using this, using these images here. Let's see what they look like. Always want to test for kind of accuracy in terms of kind of the detailed areas, especially within these designs. And it looks pretty good. It looks like, you know, the engravings have retained the details in here. We have a lot of little tone up in here in the cabin area, and I have that kind of area of logs. This set comes with, or this kind of grouping of designs is designed to work well with one another, of course, just as any of Stampscapes imagery. Okay, that's kind of another shore, so you can kind of create this little passageways. You know, I have the left and right sides of this, so you can kind of build your scenes accordingly. Okay, if you want to do a kind of a near shore, if you want to, you can kind of continue this kind of shore up this way with the opposite side of that. Well, I'll show you what that would look like. In this video. Okay. By the way, I'm using tack and peel. I mentioned this in a lot of videos, but this is tack and peel that I have on my acrylic blocks. If you use things like positioners, like you know, like a Misty or something, or the Tim Holtz types of stamp positioners, then you can use things like Aleen's, tack it over and over, kind of paint it on the back of your, you know, unmounted rubber-only stamps to use with those types of systems. Okay, this one's just a real thin strip. This isn't an ideal block for this, you know, really thin, narrow strip, but this is my kind of large stamp, you know, block, so a long stamp block, I guess, more than large. Okay. Now this is just kind of a near shore. You can kind of put somewhere. This is kind of, these shores, especially the cabin one, it's kind of like a view like you're looking from a hill or something like that. It's looking down, you know, in terms of the perspective. Let me see, let me just leave that there. But anyways, you can kind of, you know, add your water around in here. It could be a frozen lake, it could be winter. So I've had enough of the little grassy textures in there to make it so that the scene could be kind of any season, and then I've left the area behind it so you can put trees or whatever, whatever you want to. There's a little kayaker paddling home after, I don't know, sunset on the lake. I don't know, I've talked to a lot of people that do kayaking if they're in an area with you know, access to, you know, water. Some of them they just go kayaking after work. That's when they told me they do. I was in Rome, New York, teaching classes one time, and you know, you just drive, you know, just a little ways, and there's that gigantic system of lakes that there is amazing. And a lot of people in my class had, you know, waterfront, you know, property. There's so much of it. There's always little and large lakes up there, and you know, they head out. Or I was talking to someone after teaching a class in Paulsbo, Washington. Sorry for butchering that name, but Yeah, they went. They said to just go after work. You know, not this time of year, but like during the summer, I'm sure. All right, let's put this. This is a half sheet of paper right here using the same image. Okay, let me position it with the necessity of kind of filling in with some additional shoreline. I'll show you how those, at least in theory, are supposed to work. It worked on my computer. After I scanned them in, I was kind of playing around with them and positioning them. They blended beautifully, so it's always what we want. We don't want to fuss, you know. Anyways, this cabin here, what I do is I just kind of, you know, I can eyeball it here, and then I kind of position it so that when you stamp it out, see, it's kind of hard to tell because it's not indexed on the back, but I'm just using, you know, this edge right here to know, you know, what's kind of right side up and left side, you know, so it's not like angled when I stamp it out too. So just kind of register it, you know, straight in accordance with your, you know, edges of your block or on your positioner. Okay, I can leave that one on there. Okay, now let's see, which side of the shore? I gotta get used to looking at these backwards. Okay. Alright, this one is the shore right, I think I called it. Okay. Alright. So this one right here, it's just, you know, it's hovering on the page, right? So we need something out here. I mean, this could be the end of the lake. I could put some of those islands back in there, maybe. Maybe I'll do that. But let's see this down here. Let's put an additional shoreline right here. Okay. Well, maybe I'll do it up here. Okay, yeah, let's do this up here. I'll just kind of create additional shoreline right along here. This one's kind of at an angle because this is my only block that would that I have free right now, so it's kind of small for this one. But let's go like this. I'm just kind of overlapping that little bit into this previous image. A touch, okay, like that. See that how that shore kind of just continues that way, like that. Then we have this area here. Well, let's just do that. Let's just kind of focus on this imagery, and then I'll kind of break out and move into some other images as well. Okay. Just come over here like this. Okay, so you've kind of created this whole shoreline right here, right? And this kind of area is just kind of floating in there. Need some additional thing. Now this could be on the shoreline of whatever. It could be a large lake. Who knows? It could be the ocean. Or if you want to do something where it's, I don't know, it's more of an inlet or river. I mean, who knows? What I'm getting is, you could, if you put something on the other side of this, then you can kind of create this kind of watery passage or whatever. Okay, so I'm just kind of doing the mirror side of this one, and I don't know, we'll put this like, I don't know, over here maybe? I mean, you can put it wherever you want. Something like that. You can do another one over here, or a little bit less. Or you can kind of add in that near shore again, like something like this down here. Or you can just leave it as is. Here, I have the near shore on this one. Let's not do it. Let's just so we can have some variation on here. All right, now I have this area back in here. Let's fill that up with some trees. We'll foliate it a little bit. That's I was just going to focus on this series alone, but let me get some other imagery. This is I want to really fill in here and see what that looks like in kind of a forested application of these shores. Okay. Now, if I wanted to make kind of a winter time, kind of a deciduous forest type of thing, you know, I could do things like the oak trees or something like that, the bare trees, and you know, have them all along in here. We can do some, I don't know, kind of silvery blue types of applications. But let's just add in kind of a forested look right here with some of these tree clusters. The tree clusters are just really great blending images. And I just want something really fast and easy here. I mean, all the stamps, you know, in my opinion, are easy, but this one has 3 trees on one stamp, so I can just really fill it in. Okay, so I just need to mask off this cabin, all right, because I'm going to put some trees behind it. Yes, this is all you really need for your masking, at least in this series of designs. You know, Stampscapes. Okay, let's change the height of it a little bit. Something like that. Okay. It's kind of like turning into kind of like a little cabin in an area that I certainly wouldn't mind kind of being at. And see what I mean? You know, just change the height of it or whatnot. You know, it can really fill in. Okay. Now see, I'm just kind of masking off, just in general, some of these areas. There's a kind of a lighter deciduous tree in the middle of these kind of more pine ones. I'm just kind of covering that one up, but you don't have to cover up the more solid piney ones. But see how that just kind of fills in there. And I've shown this in other videos, but you can take these trees, any type of tree. One of the nice things about scenic stamping, of course, is that you can use kind of smaller portions of the tree. You know? And it just becomes kind of like a, like a part of the landscape, but just in a kind of a smaller scale. Okay. See that? It just looks like a smaller tree in the distance because, you're using kind of a smaller portion of it. Yeah, that could be a really, small trees. Or larger trees, but just farther back in the distance, So, kind of building them up right here. You can't really do an easier form of masking, huh? Than just tearing a paper towel. Okay. Here's some trees on, here's another shoreline right here. I'm just kind of masking off. See how these kind of the sloped ridges are, okay? I am going to take and mask off that ridge there that's been defined like that, as that slope there, or like that one of those, and I'll just mask it off at that angle, okay? And I'll show you what that looks like here. Okay, see how that looks? So it kind of goes with that slant there, right? See the slant right here? This is just a larger version of it. Why don't I use the large one? Just so we get a little bit of perspective here. But you can certainly use the small one, or same size of whatever tree you happen to be using. Okay, so see, here's that slope right there. I almost made that slope a little bit too extreme. Let's change it a little bit. So instead of going right along that edge like that, I'll just kind of curve it more like from that to that. You can do anything you want in scenic stamping. You can really alter things just because of the sheer amount of kind of blending that you do. And overlapping and just compositional building, like that. See that right there? But now let's do something else. Let's take that same tree, okay, and we'll go about like this maybe. Let's have that shore, showing a little bit more. Put this like this. Okay. And why don't we say that, the shoreline kind of wrapped around a little bit, or we are, where we are, standing, looking at the scene, maybe we're standing on, a bit of a ledge or something like that. So, just as that cabin is, surrounded by trees, so are we. So we can put this down here in the foreground. You can really do a lot. And like I said, I could still be using the smaller tree here, but you can really do a lot with a small number of stamps, with the amount of repetition that you can do, in scenic stamping, right? And this is a half-page scene right here, but it's predominantly, well, it's two images, it's the two versions of that, that tree cluster. But like I said, I mean, I could use that one over here too, and in the foreground. Just kind of vary the height. And when you look at something like this, I don't think it becomes too distracting in terms of monotony, I mean, when you look at a forest, it's not like, things are, vastly different from one tree to the next. So having this kind of repetition of this form everywhere, I don't know, I don't think it looks awkward. Okay. Now I didn't stamp a tree in here because I wanted to create a little bit of clearing. I mean, if someone's living there, they've probably cleared out some space around their land there. So I don't know, that looks really fun. So here it is without, and here it is with. But like I said, I kind of expect to use things behind here. I mean, this looks really great here. Can you imagine like a horizon line out here? With like a horizon, like a moon or something like that coming up on the horizon. Maybe we can do this as a, something more along, next to the ocean or something like that, similar to this type of thing going on in the distance. So you can take something like that, and we can imagine kind of like that going off in the distance, with that horizon line up there and some islands and the moon shining down like that. I mean, I'm talking about if this was a larger, piece of paper. And then what I can't wait to try is, using some pigment ink, right around that chimney there, kind of in a darker scene like that, with a little bit of that, kind of smoke coming out of the top of that chimney. The way that I, use pigment ink for, representation of haze or mist or fog. Okay, now let's take a look at, well, let me see, those are the two kind of sides. Okay, here's a piece of paper that I got a piece of ink on. Let's just use that. I don't know if I'd call that scraps. I'll probably finish these off, but let's take a look here. Let's see these opposing sides. Yeah, let's just do something with that. There is a smaller cabin too. Let's do something with that too before this is over. Let's come in here like this. Oh, yeah. Okay, this will create a really great lead-in type of composition, or lead-in element. Something that kind of leads your eye into a scene. Okay, I like to do things like roads and paths and kind of openings. We can kind of manufacture lead-ins as well with, rows of trees on, opposite sides of the paper, but doing something like this, let's see, let's change it a little bit, just let's get rid of that redundancy of form. Okay, see this right here? I've kind of stamped it a little bit lower. It is a mirrored image, you know, left and right, but we don't want it to look so much so that it becomes, I don't know, the balance is just too perfect, you know, between one side and the next. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's do this thing again. Let's mask this off here. Go like so. Okay. Let's play around with this a little bit. Let's go with the smaller tree cluster back here. So it kind of goes closer, a little bit farther back. Okay. Let's do this. Let's put these trees on the other side of this one, okay? So you just mask it off wherever you want it to go, okay? And let's just use the smaller portion of this, or the top portion of it. Again, like that, okay? See, it looks, you know, a little bit different. I can put another one over here, too. I'll just have kind of the edge of it on there, like something like that. So let's create an opening in here, and we'll create some kind of horizon line or something out here. Okay, I wasn't going to do this, but let's do it. Let's create a little horizon line. I'll do this really fast. I thought I was going to stamp over that piece of red there. Well, God. Let's go with the smaller one here. I'm kind of liking this composition and thinking I might want to finish this one off. So okay, let's get rid of that kind of blob of, you know, red ink that got on there. Okay, so let's place these smaller tree cluster images here. I didn't cover it up perfectly, but that's all right. Okay, so what we've done is we've taken a very mirrored image and kind of changed what's going on the surface of it so it doesn't look so, you know, redundant. Okay. Let's do this. Now, creating a horizon line is very easy. All you have to do is just fold over a piece of paper wherever you want that horizon line to be. I'm thinking about a 1/4 inch up here or so. Yeah, maybe, no, it's more like a 1/2 inch, I guess. And just, I mean, there's different ways to do this. This is the way I do it. Which I think is easy. And it certainly doesn't require any extra equipment, right? You know, you just kind of fold over a piece of paper like that and just shove that in there, like so. Okay, so this is certainly going to be, you know, I can do this in blues or whatever color scheme, you know, that I want to be working in. But let's just do it in black. I want to do this quickly here. Okay. I just washed off all my stylus tools, so they're still a little wet, so. Okay, I don't want too much ink on here. Kind of carried in from the outside in, like so. It's so wet, though. What I was worried about is, you know, possibly kind of smearing some of my other ink that was on there. Okay, so what I've done is that, like that, okay? And what you do is you flip it around like this so that you can get that kind of nice tapered edge. And you can see I'm kind of holding this vertically because this is the natural kind of, you know, direction of my hand. Okay. Oops. Gotta hold on to my paper. Okay, so anyways, there's my horizon. It's just kind of a foundation. I would finish it off more, you know. Or I will. Not in this video, though. But let's just use up some of the ink that's on here. Grayscale scenes can really develop very quickly. I'm just kind of putting some shadows underneath these trees right in here. Okay, so we have something like that, and I don't know, you can do some kind of sky figure up there. Like a setting sun would be kind of interesting. Or a moon. I'm doing a lot of moon scenes, you know, like this moon like that coming up over the horizon would be nice. But let me look for my where's my island imagery? Okay, buried under pads. Okay. I think kind of real distant kind of islands, maybe. See, this is kind of, it's one of those things you can do. I mean, these could represent some sort of island over here, and then you have this distant one, you know, in the background, or chain of them, whatever. Oops, this isn't quite long enough for this island, but I need the correct side on there. Okay, all right. And I'm kind of stamping it a little bit below the horizon line. Like that. Okay. And then, let's do a smaller version, or a smaller island. Kind of out here to just kind of balance it off. Alright, I've never utilized so many of my acrylic blocks at one time before. Yeah. Maybe I'll use the same one here. This one's a little bit too long for the one on with the kayak, so all these little kind of long, skinny stamps. I don't have blocks for all of them. Okay, this is a really small one. Maybe I'll put it out there in the distance. The farther back something is, at least in terms of Western's perspective, you kind of put it higher in the composition. Okay, and that represents something a little more distant, usually. Okay, so there's an island back there. I kind of want it a little bit above the horizon line, but I can kind of raise the horizon line a little bit. Well, we have something like that, and then, oh, how about this? Oh gosh. Talk about overkill in terms of size here. Size block for the stamp. Okay, this is a little sailboat. Okay, light even pressure when you get down to those really tiny images. Don't press too hard on them. Look at that. Isn't that kind of a nice little inlet there for that composition like that? Kind of moves you in the distance, so it's kind of a visual passage in here. And then you kind of follow through there, and then the viewer's eye can kind of leave the composition, so you kind of have them coming around in this way and out. So they kind of enter, observe that, and through the opening. So, anyways, I'll finish that off later. We'll kind of bring it together. Let's try that last shore with cabin, that smaller version of it. Okay. My table is cluttered. Will it fit on this? Oh. I didn't think that would fit on this. That fits perfectly. Not lengthwise, but height-wise. Okay. Okay. Maybe I'll use a different tree on this one or something. Those trees are really fun to use with these, though. As I hoped it would. Things are always kind of theoretical, you know, until, oops, I stamped that at a little bit of an angle. I forgot to do this kind of more to line it up with my bottom. But sometimes if you do things a little bit more of a kind of an angle, the slant, it gives kind of this dynamic kind of, you know, feeling to the piece. So let's just go with that. Okay, that is the correct side. Huh. This block fits more of the image than I thought it would. Let's go with this. I'll kind of just use the shore portion of this, you know, like the water's edge, actually. The whole thing's the shore, but okay. Kind of wiping off this top portion a little bit, just so it stamps out a little bit lighter. Okay, and we'll come like so. Because I didn't need to ink up the whole thing, but you never know. So ink up kind of more than you think you'll need. And then let's go with I'm trying to think, do I want to just I already did this in that scene. Let's do something else here. Let's do I can use this in back of here too. And then we will kind of foliate a little bit. Oh, this would be a good one for that kind of chimney smoke. Okay, so we've kind of created that, you know, that whole land mass there, like that. Let's see, should I do something like this? Yeah, let's do that. I really like how these are working in conjunction with one another. Okay. Let's try some, have I done, nah, I kind of did that pine deciduous. Let's try some pines on this one, because I want to use some really large foreground images with that. Alright, I'm putting some of this stuff up, because it's not a great time to do it on video, but it's so easy to lose these things, you know, that go to your tack and peel. All right. Okay, I've just grabbed several little stamps. I got some deciduous ones too, as well as some small pines. I kind of held up a pine rose stamp. It was a little bit too large for this image right here. So let's go with some of these smaller deciduous. Now, even this one's really big, so I'd have to have this out in the foreground somewhere, or Possibly the maple trio would be good. All right, let's do some masking here, right? You certainly don't need much. That's a really tiny little element in there. But let's do this. Let's stamp out some trees behind our cabin. Okay. Okay, something like that. And then, I mean, when I do these kind of deciduous trees like this, a lot of times I like to intersperse kind of pine trees in it. But really, it's to get something kind of solid within that grouping. Otherwise, it just, everything looks, you know, kind of soft and kind of without form. The pines kind of give it a little bit more form. Let me do this on the other side too, since we're doing that same type of thing. Okay, something like that. And the question is, do we angle the trees too? Maybe slightly, kind of along with the cabin. Okay, let's do the same thing on the other side. This is your mask right here. It's lasted a while. How many masks, you know, have we applied so far? Quite a few. All right. We need a shoreline on the other side, huh? Or that could be the ocean again with, you know, that kind of horizon line. Be kind of interesting. Maybe you know, this is a perfect opportunity to put like a light source out here, so possibly a sunset or something like that, or again like a moon, and then it could be shining light this way, you know, across the composition. I think I'll do that. So let's add some additional trees here in the foreground. Let's really push the space, the depth of field of this scene. Okay, so I'm going to stamp. This is a really large tree, right? Again, this is a quarter-page card, but I don't have to use the whole thing, and I'm not going to. It's just going to be a foreground element. Sometimes people see, you know, in landscapes, in most types of stamping, you're stamping the entire image. It's an outline image. It represents something, you know. It's a figure. It's an object. It's a very discernible object, and you don't kind of just stamp it halfway in this, you know, picture, an animal or whatever. You stamp the whole thing. Well, you know, in landscape stamping, you can see where I've just kind of stamped a certain portion of it coming into the scene. And that's what you do a lot with the landscape images. You can use them in their entirety, for sure, but you can just use smaller portions of it for whatever application, you know, you're using it in, whatever composition you're using it in. So something like this, I'm just using, you know, some smaller bits of it. In this case, it's just kind of the tip right here. Maybe 2 dead trees is enough, huh? We don't want to kill off the entire forest. Okay. Now I think I saw my pine tree here from a couple other videos ago. Okay, so we'll just kind of come into the scene like so. With some live trees. This is kind of putting us up on top of a hill looking down in the scene, isn't it? You know, because we're kind of above the trees looking down at that cabin. Okay, that. It puts us in a kind of higher vantage point though, doesn't it? Doesn't it look like that? Okay, so that's another foundation right here. And like I said, I could do something in the background, but, oh, you know what I should do is I should do, boy, the, Seaside Cove Small back in there. It'd have some waves. Something like that. Anyways, I'll do a video like on the finishing of some of these scenes here, or some of these stamp sketches. But I don't know. I mean, if this video is anything at all besides me kind of, you know, stumbling around, kind of doing some experiments, because I'm just completely experimenting. These are the first times I've used these stamps right here, so I'm just kind of thinking out loud. But I mean, that's kind of my approach, even if I know, you know, a stamp really well and I've used it, you know, 1,000 times or something like that. I don't go into a composition with, or a scene or a project with a completely, you know, 100% conceived notion of what that project will turn out to be. And you know, I go into it thinking, you know, I'm going to use that stamp there and it's going to be a shoreline or something. You know, I might be thinking of, okay, it's going to be a winter scene or something like that. But you have to kind of allow other things to just kind of happen, you know, and give yourself the freedom to kind of adjust and change course or something like that. Or just, you know, kind of space to kind of explore and just see what happens. Yeah, it's kind of a, you know, some people feel it's kind of precarious, but that's what it kind of start doing scenic stamping. I think inevitably that's really happens, you know. It doesn't have to happen on the grand kind of overall composition, but maybe as you start doing it, you start coloring it in, and I don't know, high noon scene becomes, you know, dusk or something like that. Everything gets a little bit darker or something like that, or they start adding one thing or another, glitter, you know, gets applied, or, you know, some scene out here, you know, turns into a, I don't know, winter wonderland when they start applying, you know, what is it called, liquid applique or something like that on the trees, you know, and it just turns all snowy. So, you know, from the initial concept to the final result, a lot of things just tend to evolve, and, you know, you can kind of just kind of be more of a kind of a free form kind of experience in terms of I don't know, kind of just changing course in the moment and adjusting accordingly with what's happened, you know, the step before. Okay, so anyways, I really like what I see here in terms of the build, you know, the capabilities with these kind of foundations right here. They're really kind of wide open, you know, spatially, you know, as you can see, you know, on these images right here. They're just kind of defining, you know, a certain portion of that given space and really allowing people to go in and to kind of embellish them however they want to. If you're a scenic stamper, you probably have all kinds of different trees that you can certainly plant in that area. And you would just use these shorelines as just that. You can kind of create the shoreline with it, but whatever happens on shore, you do whatever you want, you know. Be up here, you can put, you know, fences, or any season, it could certainly be grass in here, but this right here, I mean, if I did it in all blue tones and, you know, did some white gel pen work or something like that, this could easily be a winter scene. As far as some things like this go, you know, you can color it darker tonally, you know, it's kind of going in that direction with these kind of darker shades in here. This could be a nighttime scene or whatever. Sunset, sunrise, whatever, you know, open season in terms of, you know, whatever season you want it to reflect. And you can take it all the way to night. You know, with these cabin windows in here, I've left them really light like that. So let's say this whole scene becomes very, very dark. I would leave those windows just kind of lighter than the, you know, surrounding areas, or with a little bit of pale yellow in there just to make it look like those lights. You know, there's someone inside, and then if you do a little pigmenting type of smoke coming out of that, you know, I mean, wouldn't that be kind of a cozy kind of feeling, you know, to have that, you know, maybe a cool composition, but that warmth that's coming out of that window along with that little smoke stink. So anyways, that's the concept right here. The little pier here is kind of a lead-in, you know, for the, you know, this, I don't know, kind of the focal point of the scene. It's a focal point right now, but of course if you put, you know, this kayaker there, that would probably be the, you know, the focal point. I don't know. I guess you have the kayaker here, and I guess, you know, your eye kind of goes right to that, so maybe that cabin is always going to be the focal point of a scene. In terms of landing spot, at least, of the visual passage that your viewer will kind of follow when kind of observing your composition using that image. Who knows? Anyways, little rambling stamp sketch video. Hope that comes in handy for those. Maybe looking for some ideas with these images, if you ever get them. When they come out, eventually should be maybe just a couple weeks from now. But thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, as always, just drop me a note in the comment section.